Now we got to watch what we say. Good morning, everyone. Welcome to coaching this morning. I'm broadcasting live from, well, not so sunny St. George, but still summer and warm down in St. George. So, hey, thanks for joining me. I appreciate it. I hope this was worth your time. We're going to be on page 76, and we're talking about the factors of real estate. All right, so the market's changing. Anyone want to take a guess at what interest rates might hit by, say, January? What do you think interest rates will be in January? And what effect will that have on days on market? What do you think? Okay, so far, Peter and Pat are saying 6.75 or 7%. What effects is that going to have on the market? Like, you know, what a days on market will look like. Average residential real estate property, how long do you think it'll take it to sell? 45, maybe 60 plus. Yeah, slow down, maybe 90 days, okay. Okay, good. 7%, 90 days. Okay. I don't think you guys are too far off. I think that's, you know, look, come January anyway is a seasonal slowdown. I mean, we've just forgotten that because we spent the last 2 years in the, you know, the COVID and pandemic effect of economic stimulus. And we've forgotten what it's like, you know, in 2019, seasonally adjusted days on market would be, you know, around that 35 to 45. And that was a great market. 2019 was a good market, you know? So here we are, we may be headed towards a little longer days on market. So hence the discussion today, you know? And we'll keep it positive, all right? So yes, it's gonna be harder in some ways, but it's gonna be easier in other things. Okay, no different than what we talked about. Do you remember everyone complaining that they couldn't, they had to write 5 or 6 offers for every buyer? And they were competing and going over and all the crazy addendum language we were coming up with. Remember how bad that was? to use Peter's word that he had in the chat. It wasn't very fun, right? But, you know, what we're coming up against is an environment where people need real help to sell their houses. And I think it's a perfect environment for Berkshire Hathaway and the resources we have to win the day on that message. You can't shortcut it anymore. You know, you're not going to you can't lean on the market. We're actually going to have to do some work to find a good buyer. So great. That's perfect for us, right? Perfect for us. So bring it on. And in the midst of all of that, I think we've got to get these points right. So let me share a screen really quick. And this is something that you have to memorize. So the factors of real estate, there are 6 factors that determine how long a property will take to sell or whether it'll sell or not. Okay. So when someone, look, you're going to get people who are going to come to you and say, I have a friend who's currently listed with, and the property's not selling. I wonder if they should talk to you. This is going to happen. It's already happening. Okay. Because they fear they made the shortcut decision to go with just maybe someone they knew without shopping. So we've got to look at it through these 6 factors. I talked about this just briefly in sales meeting, but here are the 6 factors. So let's commit right now to memorizing these. And we're going to look at the property through the lenses of each one of these principles. So the first 2 are really basic, but often there are some things I think that we get wrong. And I'm going to marry 2 skill sets in this, not only to memorize the factors and speak to the factors so that you can speak intelligently and build the discussion around principles instead of just saying, well, you know, let's see what we can do. It's probably marketing or it may be something else. There are 6 factors that all need attention. So the first one is price, because price can make up for all the other factors, whether it's in a poor location or amenities and market and marketing and all these other things, right? If we drop the price below market, it can make up for a lot of things. Remember, if you want to make a note on this, over here in the blank space, we talked about 2 weeks ago, I think we talked about how to study the market after we get a listing. And we're going to track every property that's in our competition price range. Okay, so we're going to look at through the lens of just what's on the market in a price point, in a budget. I think it's natural for us to all, look at the neighborhood. That's basic also. To layer this, the pro skill set here is to look at amenities. So I'd like compare the market here. This is another skill set that relates these factors. Compare the location, obviously neighborhood, and what our competition is in the neighborhood has nothing to do with price. It's just what's going on in the market. The next one is amenity market. And that's everything that's basically built on the lot. It's the floor plan. It's everything that's in the property. It's not just deferred maintenance, or things that need to be repaired or painted or, updated. It's not just that. It's everything that's on top of that lot is the condition of the property, the amenities, everything. Remember, I'm tying in 2 classes here as we're looking at these factors, but remember to take the best feature about the property, whatever that is. Okay. It has a private pool, it's got its own pool. Okay. Well, show me every house that has its own pool. And now that becomes our competition. Notice how that's different than price and location. That's amenity comparison. So it could be, what is it? It's an unobstructed view. Is it on the fairway? Is it butt up against the golf course? Well, how many other properties do that? So I think that will shed some light on whether or not you're priced right and how you're positioning yourself, and maybe even the message that you send in marketing. Okay. So those are the first 3. Let's see if I'm missing anything on I got the amenities. Okay. So on market, the market is everything that makes up the economy. So the local economy. Certainly this is immigration in, the net immigration in and out. The effect of that is the job market. Right now we're sitting at 2% still on unemployment. That's phenomenally well and good. So, we're really leading the nation, and we have been for many years now. We're one of the lowest states in unemployment. Even in, the dark days of 20, we still were very low unemployment, even though it did climb. So I think it's important to remember that, and the market has a huge effect. It's not just interest rate, even though that's stated down here in financing. As interest rates start to adjust, we do decrease buyer pools in each segment, but there's still buyer pools. They may come down a notch. Someone who may have been 1.5 might be 900,000 now. But these prices are also settling in. Some of the price points were overinflated a little bit. Someone's asked me, well, does that mean the market's going down? I said, well, it'd be going down only if those original prices were real. And I don't think that they were. I think everyone was leading the receiver. It's a football terminology. Quarterback throws the ball where the receiver's going. And I think we were doing that on prices. We were looking at trends, and we were overshooting because we were looking at the trend of appreciation. So it's hard to say, well, we're coming down when we never were there anyway. The receiver never made it there. Okay. So I think we got to look at it through those lenses. Okay. So we're softening a little bit and flattening a little bit. The marketing is not just exposure, guys. It's the right kind of exposure. So, my mind is, it's not just images. It's the right kind of images, the quality of images. And then we get out into things like syndication and how we hit websites and, all these portals of searching to get it out there. It's certainly not just the MLS. Now we can go as digital, online marketing, print marketing, open houses are a form of marketing. Talking about a property on sales meeting is a form of marketing and networking. So marketing is a big bucket. it has a huge effect on, whether or not a property sells and how long it takes. Think about this. I like the analogy of walking into the grocery store, and what shelf do you want your product to be on? So you got the top shelves, you got the eye level shelves, you got the ones below eye level, and you got the ones at the bottom. Well, everybody wants the eye level, don't they? Everybody wants eye level, but they're still products. They're still being marketed. So where we place them and how we place them is really critical. Another thing in the supermarket comparison is everybody wants the end caps. So good analogies for marketing is we want these properties to be not only eye level, but we want them to look good at eye level. And that's important. So we don't want to devalue exposure in marketing. So why would financing, the next point, why would financing not show up under the market? Like why would that just not be a subtopic of market? Why do you think we separate that one out and make it its own category? As you're thinking about that, what if our seller decided that, hey, they don't really need all the equity? Getting all the equity out of this property right now may cause a tax problem. So they're willing and able to consider seller financing. Perhaps they're willing to even not be at 7%, maybe not even 6%. Maybe they're happy with 5%. So look, I'm looking at our participant count. There's 50 of us on this Zoom right now. My bet is that there's many of us who saw markets where we had seller financing as an option. So early 90s, that was my first market as an agent. Later in the 98, 97, there was another kind of, scale back of conventional financing and where seller financing was an option. So it's something that we might start to see. I don't know. I guess my prediction is we probably won't see a lot of it. Okay. But the point is that the seller does control some of that. Now, maybe they don't have the ability, and I get that. And there's legalities to this, guys. And I don't want to jump the gun here and say everyone should be talking to their sellers about seller financing. No, but it is a factor. Okay. And if it's one that we've decided not to entertain, that we want the equity out and we want to go the traditional route, just remember we've made that choice. Okay. We've made that choice. For some sellers who may have a lot of investment properties where, liquidating many of them in one tax year may cause a problem for them because of capital gains, bring it up. So what does that look like? Well, if we're going to go down the road of seller financing, remember, look, jump to legality. So we talk about the protections of it. So we don't have a weird expectation about seller financing. So, I think 20% down is kind of where I've always gone to. I think risk under 20% is too high. Remember, the only remedy for seller financing is foreclosure because they've given up the deed. Okay. So this is a delicate balancing act between risk and reward. Okay. So in the scope of that, at 20% down minimum, okay, then we start getting into the legalities and how that works. Okay. And I would go to the addendum of seller financing that accompanies the purchase agreement. Okay. All right. Well, those are the 6 factors. So let's do ourselves a favor. Okay. Let me stop sharing for a minute. Let's just see how we do. Okay. Grab a blank piece of paper that you can't see the 6 factors on and write them out really quick without looking. See if you can do it. If you can, give me a thumbs up. Okay, you got it? So you're able to do that. Awesome. So look, when someone approaches you and says, my house, either my property or a friend's property is having a hard time selling, remember to look at through the lenses of the 6 factors. Okay. Let me grab a couple of scenarios and that are likely to be an issue right now. Look, I think pricing is going to be delicate. You know, we've got to have current comparables. Anything that's probably 3 or 4 months old may not tell the true story. So pricing a property is the number one thing everybody wants from us. So let's make sure that we're giving that its due course. If you're only pulling comparables from the MLS, you might be looking at it only one-sided. So what other ways can we value property? Let's go back to real estate school. And you guys tell me, what are the ways that we can value property? Okay, someone needs to hit mute. I don't know who that is. I can't find you. I'm just hearing background noise. Ask to mute. There we go. It says Moonchild. Joe, maybe you could help me out. I don't know who's got the background noise, but.
Yeah, I'm trying to mute everybody here.
Okay, nice. Thank you so much. It happens on Zoom. It's okay. All right, so Pat's led off. So the cost approach, yeah. So I like this for new construction. You know, what did it cost to build? Okay, then what do we do with cost approach? So we look at land acquisition costs, we look at the cost to build and all the things that go into that, including the contractor's fees. And then we could have appreciation or depreciation based on the cost. Okay, what's another way to look at value? What other view might we take a look at? Yeah, income approach. Okay, nice job. So if the property does, gain income, then we can look at that and base that against cap rates or rates of return that would then equate to a value. Okay. Now, if it's not an income property, and we this is rare in real estate, residential real estate, we don't really deal with a lot of income properties, but occasionally we do. So those are lenses that we can look through. What's another one? There's one more. Yeah, Fran's saying replacement costs. Replacement costs very much like the cost approach or construction costs. So replacement, yes. So we've got comparables, income, cost approach, or replacement. One more view that we should look at. The market, Bob, it's a good answer, but market and comparables, same thing. Well, rental rate, Scott, would, I think, fly under the income property, but, keep them coming, guys. I think, yeah, I mean, what's the income of the property or that's income approach. And market, it may be, well, okay, let me, this is hopefully everyone gets this one, but we don't look at solds comps, do we? Only. We look at pendings and actives. That's the beauty of being a realtor when it comes to looking at value. Appraisers cannot do that. They have to look at an actual sold comparable. We don't have to do that. All right. We can look at our active competition and where we stand amongst the active group. We can also look at how we would compare against those who recently went under contract. By the way, there's a mathematical formula here. If I took these are the actives and these are the pendings, then I can group them together to get my 100% because the under contracts used to be active. And then I can take the percentage, I can take the number of under contracts and divide it against the whole, and I get a percentage of sold per 30 days or 45 or whatever. I mean, about every 45 days they roll over, right? Because they go from pending to close, pending to closed. So somewhere in that 30 to 45 days, I can build now some kind of projection of what we're up against on what's our chance of selling. You should have this discussion with people because they really are nervous about price. Okay, on the other side of memorizing things, because now there's a tie-in here, what are the core benefits that everything we do at Brookshire relate to? Write those down. And do you know them? Not if you know them, if you're on video, not if you know them. Or give me a thumbs up on the chat. This is another thing that you really have to memorize. And Mark and I talked about this as a lead-in to our CE class last week. By the way, for those who were there, thanks for coming. And thanks again, Angie, for the amazing breakfast spread. It was like being at Grand America, you guys. So that's Angie's definition of a waffle bar. It had eggs and sausage, like 4 kinds of sausages. Yeah, homemade bread, I think, was on there. 4 kinds of syrup. It was, yeah, and yeah, it was awesome. So next time we do another live CE class, I'm sure we'll do that again, right, Ange? Yeah, you're up for it? Okay, good. So what are the core benefits? And you have to memorize these. Everything we do relates back to them. What do we do? Okay. So, Pat, I love your answer. I'm going to add to that and edit it a little bit, but all those are awesome. I mean, matter of fact, when we talk to anyone who's considering joining Berkshire Hathaway, I always start off with the integrity discussion, that it's just not negotiable for us at Berkshire. Honesty, integrity, and character should win the day. It should drive all of us. They're just paramount, and it's exactly, it's everything to everybody. Okay. And on the front of the coaching manual, what do we start off with? I mean, what's the logo? What's the logo at the bottom? Honesty and integrity, right? That's what we build everything upon. However, that is not one of the core benefits. Okay, so there's a method of speaking here, and this is why I bring it up in coaching, is because when we speak to the language of benefit, everything we do is related to these 4 things, or 4 or 5 things. Okay. Nicole's got them, guys. They're right there. Nice job, Nicole. High five. We start off with the highest net possible. So everything we do, like in marketing, everything we do about pricing observations and projections of value are related to obtaining the highest net possible. That is what we're after. It is the reason we do what we do. It's the why. Okay. So why do we have all this marketing, digital, print, syndication? Why do we do all that? It is to drive the highest net possible. So when you communicate like this, you give the wisdom and why behind what we do, and now it has value. Okay. If you're not communicating value, then you're going to get commission objections. Okay. So everything we do ties into these 4 principles: highest net possible, an increased chance of selling. Wow. We didn't talk about that for 2 years, but there's a possibility a property may not sell. So how do we increase our odds of selling? That's a core benefit. Okay. And then we've got time on market. We would like to lower the days on market as short as possible, because we know that listing a property is inconvenient for people. And see, that has value, right? Least amount of time on market, or the time frame in which they have a goal. So I might say, Peter, ideally, when would you prefer the property to close? And Peter answers and says, well, we thought about this. If it can be any time in November or first part of December before Christmas, we would be happy. To say, great, that now becomes my time frame. That becomes the core benefit. That I'm striving now to reduce the amount of days on market with everything that we do. It's the reason so that we can close before the 2nd week of December. That's our goal. Okay. And the last one is legal risk. We lower legal risk. And a lot of things that we do. And that one took center stage last week. We looked at the rep sheet through the lenses of what kind of sections and language seems to be repetitively causing dispute or, costly settlements. demand letters for money and compensation, threat of litigation, or litigation, so we went through all those. And look, marketing a property, selling a property has legal risk tied to it innately. Our job, lower legal risk. Okay, so just make sure that you're memorizing these, because it'll flow better for you. You'll lean on them and say, gosh, yeah, that reminds me, there's 6 reasons a property sells and how long it takes. There's 6 factors that weigh in on that, and just be authentic. You don't need to be scripted, but now you've got the structure. And as you're talking about what you do and why you do it, remember to tie in the 4 benefits. So I've referred to this as speaking the language of benefit. Speak the language of benefit. The reason we do that is because when we speak language of benefit, we speak language of wisdom and why. And when you do that, you create value. Problem, solution, value. Okay? Problem, solution, value. When you deliver solutions and explain why they matter, then you build value. Okay. I want to make sure this is a point that's been brought up a couple of times, but as market conditions are starting to get a little more challenging, I want to remind everybody that market conditions in residential real estate are rarely the reason that someone buys or sells. Okay, that's commercial property. That's income property, right? So the market conditions are not the reason. The market conditions are only the obstacles that lie in our way. So last week, I coached a team that asked me some questions like, what kind of things might I tell buyers right now as the market gets tough, right? Has it crossed your mind? I mean, interest rates are continuing to climb. It's getting a little bit more expensive, and it's all relative, guys. It's all relative. Okay, I know we could all say, yeah, but remember when, if you want to talk about how remember when they were so low, maybe we should also talk about remembering when they were so high. but give it equal attention. But nevertheless, we're being asked this. So what do we do? What do we do? Well, if we go back to this principle that in residential real estate, we rarely buy or sell residential real estate because of the market. Why do we buy residential real estate then? What is the reason? Yep. The pain to stay the same has become greater than the pain to change. So something is driving individual, family, whatever that looks like, and it's driving them to do something about it. So when you're thinking about, yeah, Matt, the pains and pleasure of life, I mean, life is short. There's needs for kids or spouses or retiring folks, or, all the gamut. Something is driving it. So I think it's best to focus on those things, because in the middle of their personal reason to move is now the question of whether or not the interest rate, the down payment, the loan, or the cash is worth solving that problem. Now that's a better discussion. So you see how it's taken it away from whatever the Fed does with rates. It's more focused on, well, let's talk about what you're trying to accomplish. And is that worth it? I think that's a better way to look at it. We've had decades of interest rates above 8%. Decades and decades and decades. So, and I'm not really sure we're going to get there. A lot of the projections are we will not get there. There's even talk about in the spring, they probably will retreat a little. But are we going to see a 2% again? No, because the federal government would have to buy mortgage-backed securities, which they will not do at that rate. They won't spend hundreds of billions of dollars on that again. We're not going to see 2s. We're not going to see 3s. We may again sometime see a 4, 4, 7, 4, 5. but I don't think we're going to be seeing anything at 8. That's just my opinion. Okay. So based on what I've read. So I know the saying was, marry the house and date the rate. And I get it. The house is what it solves is really, I think, where the center of the discussion should be. That's the point of this whole thing, is what are we solving? Okay. So yeah, market conditions, rarely the primary reason. We don't sell when, that's not what we do. We do that with stocks. We do that with investment property, but we don't do that with a home. Okay. We sell home because needs have changed, and those needs are important. Okay. How are we doing? We're a little after 10. Is there something that, look, if we were together right now in a room, I think we would have a natural flow of a conversation around something, but Zoom is so difficult. Is there anything on your mind relative to these that we should talk about? So we're talking, the 6 principles, and the core benefits. Is there anything around that you want to talk about? Don't talk. Shh. Don't say anything. Kristen, thank you for smiling. And Pat, I appreciate it. See, those with video on, I really do appreciate it. I mean, I commend you for showering, and, Linda, thank you so much. And great lunch yesterday, by the way. Nice conversation. But anything you want to talk about, guys, that's related to this? Fran, more discussion of affordability and how different areas of markets are affected. Okay. All right, affordability. Anybody want to talk about affordability? How would you address affordability discussion? Peter? Something on your mind? Like if someone said, well, what's going on with are we affordable? Are we talking about Utah? Fran, do you want to talk about it from like the Utah perspective? What do you think, Peter?
So sorry, what's the question exactly?
The question was, what about discussing affordability topic?
Affordability topic. Well, that would just boil down to the qualifications of the buyer and what they're willing to afford. I mean, how much they want their monthly house payment to be. Is that acceptable to them as far as, what they can afford or what they can't afford? I mean, I always go in with that attitude of no one wants to be house poor. And certainly with the changes of rates, that's certainly going to increase payments as far as that goes. But, it's really just making sure they understand with their lender what they're, what they can and can't afford as far as that goes. Because when we talk about buy the house and marry the rate or whatever it is, well, what if the rate never comes down to what their expectations are? I really don't like that term.
Yeah.
As far as that goes, I'm not big on that one.
Yeah.
Because the way we're going, we could talk about rates dropping in spring, but hey, this is all hypothetical. I mean, we got to look at the here and now, and I think that's what everyone has to look at.
Yeah.
As far as that goes. So when we talk about affordability, they got to make sure they're in a position right here and now to afford what it is they're willing to purchase.
Yeah.
Take on. So.
Yeah, the flaw with that is that we're kind of implying that the rate will come down and you can refinance, and I think that might not be something that is too honest. So I don't like that. It kind of sounds a little salesy to me. Like we'll just do it. However, let's look at it like this. If you guys were betting right now, and we did the over/under concept, will houses in 5 years from now be more or less than they are today? 5 years, more or less? Weigh in. So if we're going to be less, what we're saying is that depreciation will happen over the next couple of years. And in 5 years from now, they will be less expensive than they are today. If we say more, then we're saying that appreciation will continue in some form or fashion, and we take a snapshot in 5 years from now and relate it to today, and we will see that they're more expensive. If I said 7 years, would we be unanimous? Because you have to go back a long way. I mean, you have to go back to the Great Recession to show 2008 to 2012 was the longest flattening or decline in values. 4 years. And then the next year, they started to appreciate. And it wasn't long before we were saying things like, we've made up for all the loss. You guys remember this? Those who went through it? Remember we were saying this? We made up for all the loss of 2008. And they appreciated quickly. You know, but think about what we were telling people in 2008, 9, 10, and 11. You know, like it was going down and they were buying. Now, they bought in, let's say, 2011. Let's check back let's add 5 years and check back in 2016 and ask them if they're happy. So if you buy something today at, say, 6.5%, and in 5 years from now, it's worth more. And if rates are 8.5%, are they happy? If we check back in 5 years from now and the house is worth more, but interest rates drop down to 4.7 and they refinanced, are they happy? Okay, so this is the skill set of futuring the decision. So you go out and look backwards. And I kind of like that. I think it has a lot more honesty to it. The affordability issue, I think, is related. I think I'd like to start with maybe where Peter was going with this, is personally affordable. Because everything else is relative to either where we've been or other states. Sometimes you'll get affordability based on income, you know, so who's more affordable, you know, who's overappreciated. And these are speculations and, you know, really hard to get your head around. And it doesn't really solve the problem for the individual. The question is whether or not the pain to change is less than the pain to stay the same. You know, because you can stay where you are, and maybe you buy later. You take a risk of the property being worth more or less. And you know, these little time frames of a year or two. I mean, yeah, there's been times when the market's gone down for a year or maybe two. But we've never seen anything longer than 4 years, and that was the Great Recession. Okay. And that was a one-time event. I'm not saying it's never going to happen again. I mean, I don't have a crystal ball. I never thought in the middle of the pandemic that we would have 2 back-to-back amazing years. But I guess if somebody would have told us, Mike, that, hey, the federal government is about to throw trillions of dollars in the economy and buy mortgage securities at a huge rate to drop interest rates down, and you can work from home, maybe we would have went, huh, yeah, that will. Oh, and people aren't going to lose all their jobs. Like, it's not, we probably would have said, hey, we're in for a really, I wish I could go back to that discussion when Steve Roney asked all the leaders in the middle of the storm. I mean, the storm's raging, you know, like there's discussions from like Mitt Romney who said, don't pay your lease. You remember this?
Yeah.
And we're going, oh my gosh, that's our solution? Like, this is going to get ugly. And the storm really lasted for like 8 weeks. Whoa. And then all of a sudden we're like, we just had our best July ever. Shh, I think it's a fluke, so don't say anything. And then August was better than July. What the heck is going on here? By September, we were all going, buckle up, folks. We're in for a ride. Well, you know, it's the same thing going on right now. You know, I mean, how much fear are we going to digest? You know, I just think I come back to simple things. What is it that your family needs? And over the long haul, real estate appreciates. It's a great way to hedge against inflation. It's a great way to put money.
I'll contribute a little bit here.
Yeah, please, Mike.
I did see Pat's comment about apartments and multifamily.
Yeah.
how that affects some of our discussion. I would say that multifamily does play a big role in affordability, and affordability, in my mind, just reduces down to two questions. Is it more affordable to renters, or is it more affordable to purchase? And that, depending on your market and depending on what multifamily rents are in your market, maybe that situation will flip-flop, right? But if you're in Salt Lake City, you're not getting value by renting anything, like at all. Forget about whatever we're feeling inflation. There is serious inflation going on in multifamily rents. They're going up dramatically. And to, a lot of people's perception is that there is a massive amount of multifamily going on in Salt Lake City. And of course, you see it everywhere you drive. I mean, you can't go 2 blocks without seeing a big building going up. Just FYI, we are setting records for the year of multifamily units that are being built, but also keep in mind that we are not meeting demand. All right. So every time one of these projects goes up, especially downtown, we're talking almost $100 million investment at a minimum. These developers spend a lot of money studying the rental market. They get rent studies done. They pay good money to figure out what demand is. The demand is still there. It is still large. The other argument would be, well, they're not building affordable houses. You're right. They're not building affordable houses. But at the end of the day, they are adding to inventory, right? We need more inventory is the bottom line. We don't have enough places for humans to live, and we just need more places for humans to live. And so if, when things contract, just imagine the flow. Like if people don't have a lot of choices to live, people who can afford more might not be living in the places that they would rather live because they don't have many choices. And when they do have choices, they vacate the more affordable units and occupy the more expensive units, and thus leaving more less expensive units to rent. So it's an inventory problem when we have to solve it. But when you do the math, when we talk about affordability, it's really hard to discuss their finances in relation to what are you willing to do? I think that's a really good perspective. Like, what are you willing to do? Because some people's lifestyles are completely different, right? Some people would prefer to live dramatically different and live in squalor, so they can go out and spend all their time in the mountain and spend all their time buying mountain bikes and new skis, and they don't care. And some people are the exact opposite. So that is subjective to some degree. So I think just boiling it down to the comparison of, you have to live somewhere. Do you want to buy or do you want to rent? And right now, rent doesn't look long-term like a good solution. So that's all I got.
I like it. Thank you so much. I appreciate that. Pat's got a comment there about sellers who are currently have a loan at, say, 3%, and then would need to be giving that up to get a new loan at the new rate. And I think this goes right back to, well, what's the problem with the home you're in? And why are we even thinking about moving? And they're going to tell you guys, they're going to say, well, this isn't right. I need to change this. This has changed. They're going to tell you. And then I think so I'm looking at page 102. I don't know that I can get my thing when I'm on Zoom, for some reason, Acrobat jumps all around. But on page 102, I think this should win the day. Okay. Let's not be salesy. Okay. You don't have to be. You don't have to try to close someone or talk them into something. So we should weigh our success on whether or not we've improved the relationship. And how do you improve relationships? Well, you build trust, because you're looking at the world through their lenses, leveraging your expertise and knowledge, right? So you don't have to sell someone on this stuff. So first of all, we build relationship. Like I can always grade myself on whether or not I was victorious in that. Okay. I can't always say, well, I got a listing, or the buyer went under contract. I can't always do that. That's way bigger than me. and I should acknowledge that and respect that. This is their life, their decision. So issues of affordability are their decision. Like Mike said, they're so individual that it's their decision, and we can guide and help them through that. Okay, so grade yourself on relationship, not whether or not you got the listing per se, right? I think, look, I guess what I'm getting at here is you're gonna have discussions with people that are today that what we want the takeaway to be is something like this. They go, you know what? I trust Kristen. And a year later, they call Kristen. 3 years from now, they call Kristen. They refer Kristen. That's what we want to have happen. We want to be a trusted advisor. Okay, not the closing salesperson, the talking into something. So as you're having these very personal discussions with people, just try to remember that you're still winning when you just advance the relationship. All right. It's good stuff. And it's a happy life. The finish lines are weird in this business. And I don't know how to get away from it all entirely. I mean, we're celebrating things like GCI. We celebrate things like closed units, and we talk about this all the time. Well, what's an agent's production? As if that tells all. What's more important to me is the agent who only had one sale, but treated that client the way they wanted to be treated. And they were a trusted advisor in that whole relationship. That means more than someone who, if I flipped the script and they did millions of dollars of GCI, but didn't do that, then I'm not interested in that. And we're not interested in that. So that should win the day. And it's just pure sunshine, you guys. It's okay. if we're meeting with people and they don't list right now, it's okay. It's all right. So relationship above all things. But
hey, Will.
Yes. Hi, Jason.
Hey, good morning. Will, how are you?
Good.
Hey, just a quick question. And this maybe goes back to that comment just a few minutes ago. What happens if a seller is in a 3% loan situation and is going to necessarily, if they want to change residences, have to go higher? I heard a talking head on NPR yesterday. I can't remember the program, but basically it said that most Americans will not lose money if they were to change residences right now. Stop. Can you unpack that a little bit? Or is that maybe what you were talking about? Just build a relationship now, or if it's not time for them?
Well, I think, guys, that because the problem isn't that big to solve. See, I think that's really the bigger issue. I mean, if we're only talking about the financial effect on residential real estate, then I think we miss the number one thing, because it's never been its primary purpose. Residential real estate has not been an income producing purpose. It's been where home is. And if home isn't right, then is it worth making the change? Is it worth the additional interest rate, down payments, and loan? That is the discussion. It isn't, it's a time to. I think that's how you look at commercial real estate and income property or stocks. That is its purpose. But residential real estate is about home. So that would be my take, Jason. And it's very personal to someone. I get it. I mean, I've owned properties. I get it. I've got some loan. I got a 2.3 on interest rate on one of my properties. 2.3.
Wow.
But that's not the thing. Like if the pain to stay the same starts to be greater than the pain to change, then I'm going to make the change.
Okay. I've run into a couple of objections where people were considering listing here in my neighborhood.
Yeah. And
maybe moving up or across a little bit or to something a little bit more updated. And that was their objection. Basically, they're going to get into something and it's just going to cost them. And they've been here for 10 or 11 years or something. And their kids are kind of aging out of, or the family size is aging out of, this kind of starter home neighborhood. So,
yeah.
Anyway, I've run into that. Just wondering how to overcome.
I think we're all gonna have that, and in many cases there isn't any overcoming it. It's just understanding it. Okay. We're not going to overcome it. We're going to understand it and help them make sense of it. So when people do make the change, it's because it's a lot more than going on than trading a 3% rate for a 6% rate. There's something that's worth doing it. And if it's not worth doing it, then, well, that's just not someone who's ready for a real estate transaction. And that's okay. They can still be a great relationship for us, you know? And I think we should own that. Like, we don't have to close someone, you know? So, Mike, you agree?
Yeah, I actually agree a lot. And to Pat's comment about, you know, they're not going to sell. I think there's an element of that that's very true, as Jason just outlined. Yeah. But I also think that there is an element of our local real estate culture that is just going to die with this. And part of that is that we have very much an expectation of sort of a housing progression in our lifetime where we are continually upscaling our living situation. And at least it was with a lot of my friends and a lot of people growing up. And then, you know, once you reach a certain age, you sort of downscale into something that fits you and your family. In a lot of the major metros around this country, that doesn't happen. It's more unique to it was more unique to our local real estate because it was more affordable. If you go to major metros, families are buying a house, they're staying in that house because they have very few options, because affordability is a real problem. And so, you know, we do have, I think, as a culture, some expectations that used to be realistic, but now aren't. And part of that is, you know, casually trading living situations because there's a freaking really cool house up the street that is unbelievable. And I would love to live there. Let's make a move. You know, that becomes less and less a thing, I think. And, you know, so I think in some regards, we're turning into that a little bit, but that's a small, thin line, I think, of what people are motivated to do. So the 3%, yeah, it was a heck of an incentive for people to realize the American dream, but that doesn't mean they're going to abandon it based on a career change or a lifestyle change that they feel that they need to make. That's the overwhelming driving force. And I don't think, you know, because we can play the reverse of this, you know, not my age group, but the generation older than me. There isn't, whenever you talk about real estate, the only thing they want to talk about was, remember when real estate rates were 13%? It's the only thing they remember. Okay. And we still overcame that. So when you look at the opposite of incredibly low or incredibly high, things still moved because of need and desire to upgrade or change their lifestyle. So arguments could be made in both cases, but our motivations far outweigh interest rates.
Mm-hmm. Yeah, I think. Yeah, go ahead, Fran. Hi. It's good to see you, by the way.
Yeah, thanks, Mike. You hit on the topic that I wanted to discuss, and the changing complexion of the Wasatch Front and how real estate is impacted by that. We've seen it already. I don't think that's going to change. I think we continue to become more like the larger urban areas in the United States and less like what we've experienced in the past. You can see it, it's obvious. So we have to be prepared for that and help our clients for wherever they're coming from.
Yeah.
So thank you, Mike. And thank you, Will, as well. This is wonderful.
Yeah. Good comments, you guys. I really appreciate it. I love it when we teach each other. Kristen, I think you got it. You're echoing what we're saying here. I'm going to double down on this. Don't try to push people into making a decision to do something that they don't want to do. It's too, costly for them. They have to walk through that. Like, I like what you said there. Like, is the commute really costly? If the commute's really costly, then maybe you're really saving money, even given the new rate, if you move closer. And if that's, what does that look like to you? And how costly is it that if children don't have a place to grow up the way that you want them to grow up, what's the cost of that? So that's the nucleus, and that is personal. It's unique, and it doesn't have any kind of tide flow effect, like whatever the tide is, up, down, or whatever the economic conditions. One other point, the thing that really drives residential real estate are jobs. You have a good paying job, now you have the ability to fix, repair, or improve, or downgrade, or whatever it is, your home situation. And if you have good jobs, and we have a lot of good jobs in Utah, and if the job market starts to suffer, then real estate will really take a hit. That was the effect of the Great Recession, is that we had a lot of people who were underemployed, underpaid, or had no jobs at all. Okay, so we're not seeing that right now. We're seeing an adjustment to inflation, guys. It's because so much money was dropped in. You know, also remember, everyone's houses appreciated at a dramatic rate. So there's equity there for them to tap into. So let's make sure we're balancing out some of the things that aren't so good with also the things that have been fantastic. But I hope what wins the day is that you make a better relationship with the people you know, and you become a more trusted advisor than you are today. Like, celebrate that, you know, talk about that. That should be like what we do in sales meeting. Congratulations to our monthly winners, you know, right, Mike?
That's right.
So, and hey, thanks. Hey, our time is up, you guys. Thanks for joining me. I hope this was helpful. I always ask everybody, like, what are your takeaways today? You know, what are your notes? What are things that are prodding you a little bit? Make sure you put some action to that. And thank you for joining me. I'm very proud of you. Go out there and help someone because they need you. Trust me, guys, they're going to be lucky to have you. All right. So let's go out there and make a difference in someone's life. Thanks for all the comments, you guys. I'll stay on for a little bit if you want, but have a wonderful day. Okay. Thanks so much.